Hello, hello. We are back, you guys. We are back. Trauma Talks live week 9. Yes, okay. And this week we're going to be talking about attachment and relationship patterns. Yes, isn't that amazing? Attachment and relationship patterns. Why do we love the way we do? Why do we love the way we do? That's the question today. Okay, so I want you guys to get your pen and paper and get your coffee, get your tea, get ready because we're about to dig into why do we love the way we do? There's a reason for it. Okay, and I want to help you understand it really, really clearly today. Okay, so welcome back to Trauma Talks Live. Tonight we're diving into something that impacts every relationship. We have our attachments and our relationship patterns. Okay? That's what's behind every relationship. Whether you have a good attachment relationship or or secure, we call it a secure attachment relationship, or whether you have a insecure attachment relationship. You have an attachment relationship. You have an attachment pattern. Okay? All right? So a lot of people think that relationship struggles are simply about communication problems. And although communication has a lot to do with our relationships, because all relationships start with communication, right? Incompatibility and bad choices is another thing that people look at relationships. Oh, we're incompatible. Yes, okay. I made a bad choice. I picked the wrong guy. I picked the wrong girl. But many times, the deeper issue is that our nervous system learned what love felt like long time before we understand what healthy love actually was. Our nervous system was already picking up the signals. Yes. They were already picking up the signals as to what unhealthy love feels like, unfortunately. Not knowing that at the time, they were picking up those signals, right? So tonight we're gonna unpack all of that. Okay. Again, my name is Crystal Booth. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and I am a trauma recovery coach. And if you've never been on this show, please go ahead, like, share, and subscribe because guess what? Guess what? Trauma Talks Live. And you know what? We go into all kind of discussions about trauma, you know? And it's free. Why wouldn't you? All right, why wouldn't you? We want to help you. We want to help you get the answers that you've been waiting for. Why do you love the way you do? Because many people are not choosing relationships, you guys, from their healed identity. They're choosing from survival. They're choosing from their survival response. Okay? All right? So let's get into it. What is attachment? What is attachment? We need to define that, right? Not everybody knows what attachment is. I don't want to assume that you know. Okay? Attachment is the emotional bond we develop with our caregiver early in life. Okay? So the attachment is the emotional bond we develop with our caregiver early in life. Our nervous system learns something. Am I safe? Am I loved? Will my needs be met? Is connection safe or is connection dangerous? Do I have to perform to receive love? Do I have to abandon myself to stay connected? Write those questions down. Am I safe? Am I loved? These are the things that you had to learn early. Your nervous system had to learn early in childhood. Maybe not. You didn't even know your nervous system was picking up on all these signals. They were answering all these questions without your knowledge, which you didn't even know. Okay. Will my needs be met? Your nervous system learn. Will my needs be met? Is connection safe or dangerous? Right. Do I have to perform to receive love? And finally, do I have to abandon myself to stay connected? Yes. Do I have to abandon myself to stay connected? The answers to these questions became internal blueprints, you guys. Remember, we've been talking about so many blueprints, okay? So this is your internal blueprint, all right? We've been building upon this every week, okay? Hopefully we didn't. I think we might have missed 1 week, but we've been building on it pretty consistently for adult relationships. That's how you got your blueprint. You got your blueprint early in childhood, okay? From obviously from your caregivers, whoever was taking care of you. It could have been your mother or father, but not in all cases is our mother and father takes care of us. Sometimes our grandparents take care of us. We also learn our attachment patterns from them as well, from our parents, from our grandparents, from maybe an adopted parent. It doesn't matter. Whoever was the caregiver. That means that many relationship struggles are not just emotional. Guess what? If you're having a relationship struggle, it's neurological. Neurological, okay? Your brain and body are trying to recreate what feels familiar. Your brain and your body are trying to recreate what feels familiar, even if familiar was painful. You go recreate it just because that's what your brain and your body is used to. Okay, so let's get into some key points to this. Trauma doesn't just affect memory, it does affect your memory. It definitely affects your memory, it affects your concentration. Yeah, it affects all of that, your memory, your concentration, but it also affects relational expectations. A lot of people don't tell you that trauma affects what you expect your relationships to feel like and to be like. So you wonder why you stay in bad relationships? Probably you got used to it. Even though it's painful, it's so very painfully familiar. Okay? So you stop expecting healthy connections. You stop expecting that. Okay? And start adapting, unfortunately, to instability. Okay? So this is a really, okay, it might take a little time for me to get into this with you guys today. Okay, so I hope you're ready. I hope you got some time on your hands and you're ready to go with me, go in hard with me. Okay, because this one is huge. Your relationship pattern came from the relationship pattern you had in early childhood. Okay, so let's talk about the four main attachment patterns, just in case you never heard of them before. I want to make sure you get the blueprint right this time. Okay, and you get this fixed once and for all. Okay, so let's talk about secure attachment. A securely attached person learn connection is safe, emotions are allowed, boundaries are respected, and love does not require performance. That's what, yeah, that's what secure attachment taught you. Okay? Secure people can communicate honestly, tolerate intimacy. Yeah, they can tolerate. You have to be able to tolerate intimacy. Funny enough, people think that it's an automatic thing that you're going to be able to tolerate love, but some people cannot even tolerate love if they it feels very uncomfortable for them. Okay? So regulate conflict. That's what a secure attachment feels like. You're able to, yeah, you have conflict, but you're able to regulate that conflict, okay? And maintain individuality in relationships so you don't get completely enmeshed in the relationship. You have an identity of your own. If that makes sense. So you understand? So you're able to communicate honestly when you have secure attachment. You're able to tolerate intimacy. And I say tolerate that because some people cannot tolerate it. Okay? And we'll get into why, okay? All right. But and also regulate conflict. When conflict happens, you're able to regulate. Okay? And you're able to maintain individuality in relationships. You're able to regulate the individuality. Okay? All right. Many trauma survivors struggle with secure attachment because chaos felt more familiar than peace. That's what I mean when I say that. Chaos, it became more familiar than peace. So if chaos became more familiar than peace for you, I want you to drop, hey, that's me in the comment. Okay? Don't be ashamed of it. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. This is something that happens to a lot of people. So let's go on and move on to anxious attachment. Okay? We just did secure attachment. Now let's talk about anxious attachment. Anxious attachment often develops when love was inconsistent. So you understand that anxious attachment often happened when love was inconsistent. Sometimes caregivers were emotionally available. Sometimes they weren't. You see what I mean? So anxious attachment. It doesn't mean that the person wasn't available at all in this particular one, okay? Anxious attachment often develops when love was inconsistent. It's not that you didn't have love, it's just that sometimes you got love, sometimes you didn't get love. Okay, so sometimes caregiver was emotionally available, and sometimes they were not. Okay, so the nervous system learned I must stay hyper vigilant to keep connected because they kept getting connected, disconnected, connected, disconnected. So that's what the nervous system had to figure out. Like, how do I stay connected? How do I stay safe with my caregiver? So they became hypervigilant to do so, constantly scanning, looking for danger, worrying, am I going to get my needs met consistently? When are they going to disconnect? When is it going to happen again? And constantly feeling terrified of that moment that the attachment is going to disconnect or detach. Okay, so the nervous system learned I must stay hypervigilant to stay connected. Okay, this can show up as fear of abandonment. You see so many people like they're fearful of abandonment. You're like, how did you get so fearful of abandonment? Well, maybe they had a parent. Maybe their parent lived with them. Maybe everything was fine as far as living with them. But maybe there was time when their parent emotionally detached. And that's how this happened. They were emotionally detached, dis- disengage, engage, disengage. Write this down, you guys. Okay? Write this down. This is huge. Okay? This is huge. This is gonna really, really change your life and your relationships. Okay? This is Trauma Talks. This is what we do all the time. You need to go ahead and you need to subscribe. And you need to tune in and let's do this together. Okay? Let's work through this together. Okay? All right. So of course they're gonna fear abandonment because they were being abandoned and then they were being reconnected and then being abandoned. They're gonna overthink. They're gonna people please, right? Because that's how they stay connected. One of the ways they stay connected. They're gonna emotionally overgive. They don't know where to stop. They don't know. They're gonna constantly need reassurance. You see people like that. Maybe you were like that. Okay? Constantly needing reassurance. That's because they were reassured, they were validated, but not consistently and not enough. Okay? And then also difficulty feeling emotionally safe. Got difficulty feeling emotionally safe. Okay. So many people with anxious attachment confuse anxiety with love. Yeah. So when they start to feel that feeling, they think, oh, that must be love. It's not love. That's your anxious attachment style in a lot of cases. I know it's shocking. So many people who feel something, oh, I'm excited. Yeah. Anxious attachment. Confuse it with the anxiety with love because unpredictability became emotionally stimulating. They actually got used to unpredictability. They had to get used to it. Their nervous system had to get used to it in order to manage. This is how they manage to stay safe, to get used to something that you really shouldn't get used to. If that makes sense? So sometimes you get used to things that are bad for you in order to survive that bad thing. In order to survive something bad for you, you get used to it. That's really, really, it's kind of like a paradoxical in a way. Okay? So you're not too needy. So I want you to understand that today. You are not too needy. You didn't do anything wrong. You just had unpredictable love. Unpredictable. Your nervous system learned survival through attaching, yeah, through attaching, uh, monitoring, constantly monitoring the people around you and attaching, monitoring everybody and everything going on around you in order to stay connected. All right. So let's continue, you guys. All right. Now we're going to go to the third one. Okay. This is the one that I find people, so many people, actually, the anxious attachment one And the avoidant attachment one, oftentimes, well, we'll get to that later, but I have a little thing about that one. The anxious and the the anxious attachment style and the avoidant attachment style, they kind of are cousins, so to speak. Okay. So let's get into it. Okay. So avoidant attachment often develops when emotional needs were dismissed, criticized, or guess what? Ignored. Criticized or ignored. The nervous system learned, guess what? Dependence is unsafe. Just like the other one learned, I got to get used to this unpredictability, which is a horrible thing to get used to. In this case, they didn't get used to the unpredictability. Guess what they got used to? They got used to, or they came up with a belief system that being dependent on people is unsafe. So I'm not going to depend on people at all. So that was their way to deal with it. Do you understand? So the anxious avoidant one, they decided to to learn a way to accept that behavior. But the other one learned a way to say, hey, this is unsafe. I'm just not going to deal with this at all. This is not going to be a part of my blueprint anymore. I'm going to X out having these vulnerable relationships, period. So I'm only going to have superficial relationships. It gets deep, you guys. All right. So I told you, get your pen and paper. I told you it's going to be one of those trauma talks. Sometimes we have them. They pop up here and there, and they're just like, wow. Okay. All right. So attachment. Let's go into that. Avoiding attachment. Avoiding attachment. Okay. Nervous system learned that dependence is unsafe. So I'm just not going to depend on anyone. Vulnerability leads to disappointment. So I'm not going to be vulnerable. All right. I can't trust that. I can only rely on myself. And that's why sometimes this particular attachment style, a lot of times looks very self absorbed, very selfish, and very all about, generally all about themselves because that's what their nervous system told them to do. Okay. I need to depend only on myself because love is unsafe. Attachment is unsafe. Being connected is unsafe. So these individuals might do things like emotionally withdraw. So you see that pursuer withdrawal dynamic in relationships. The one of the relationships, the anxious attachment is pursuing, and the avoidant is withdrawing. Not all the time. So don't think that they all the time withdraw. They just do this a lot of the times. This becomes a part of their patterns, of relational patterns. Okay. So they struggle with vulnerability. You try to get them to be vulnerable about something. Good. I hope you can get that done. It's very hard. It's very hard. Okay. They shut down during conflict. If there's some conflict, completely numb, just completely numb. Don't feel anything. They definitely fear intimacy. Okay. All right. Where the other one might fear being abandoned, this one fears being intimate in the first place. And they internalize emotions. So, or appear emotionally unavailable. They're they appear very unavailable. Very, very unavailable. So this is the one that you probably really, really want to zone in on, okay? Underneath the avoidance is often unresolved pain. It's just unresolved pain underneath that. And that's what we do here at Wings of the Future. We help you get to the root of it. Because it doesn't, even though the person is withdrawing, even though they're having problems with being vulnerable, you're trying to get them to be vulnerable, you're trying to get them to be available, you're trying to get them to express their emotions, but they're just internalizing their emotions. They're shutting down as soon as you try to confront them about them. They fear the intimacy. It gets really bad. It gets really, really tough when you're dealing with this particular attachment style. Avoid it. Okay. Many avoidant individuals are not emotionless, though, you guys. They're emotionally overwhelmed. That's the big thing that you got to understand about them. A lot of people think they don't have emotions. And in fact, They actually have too many emotions, all their emotions. They're overwhelmed with them. Do you understand that? Okay, so let's get into number 4. We're going to talk about disorganized attachment. Disorganized attachment. This pattern often develops from in environments where love and fear exist together. So maybe you had a parent who was, you know, try to put the fear God in you, if you know what I mean. Not necessarily from a religious standpoint, but just, they're constantly keeping you in fear, but constantly showing you love at the same time. That's where this one comes in, okay? It's I would say this one is definitely paradoxical. It's kind of like, so the caregiver may have been abusive, unpredictable, leaving you emotionally unsafe, very neglectful, or both confronting and terrifying. Both comforting, excuse me, I said confronting, I meant to say comforting, excuse me, and terrifying all at the same time. The very place where you eat from is the very place that bites you. Think about that. That's where this disorganized attachment style comes from. So the very place where you eat is also the very place that causes you your pain. Very, very hard to organize this. That's why it's called disorganized. It's not easy to organize a trauma relational pattern like this. Okay, and I feel very sorry for people who have this one. So the nervous system becomes confused. The person deeply wants love, but also fears it. Okay, this creates push-pull dynamics, craving intimacy, then withdrawing, intense emotional highs and lows, right? Difficulty trusting, fear of abandoning, engulfing at the same time. So just all about it, and then back and forth. Okay, this attachment style is common in trauma survivors. It's very common in trauma survivors. So, you guys, I hope that it explains. Okay, so let's continue, you guys. Okay, so you understand these 4 main attachment styles: disorganized, avoidant, anxious, and then secure attachment, which is what you really want. Okay, so if you didn't get that, that doesn't mean you're broken though. That doesn't mean you can't be fixed. That doesn't mean we can't get this taken care of, because we can get this taken care of. So one of the hardest parts of healing is recognizing that intensity is not always intimacy. That's the first thing you need to realize. Okay, so when you're with someone and you, oh, so intense, you might feel like that's intimacy. Probably you don't know what intimacy is, because maybe your intimacy, you didn't have you didn't get a chance to experience safe intimacy. Okay, so you get confused. Okay, so trauma bonds often feel very obsessive. They feel very obsessive, emotionally consuming, like addictive, unstable, chaotic, and deeply activating. Right, deeply activating. So you understand that trauma bonds, they feel deeply activating. Okay? So why? Because the nervous system mistakes emotional unpredictability for connection. The nervous system mistakes emotional unpredictability for connection. Doesn't it mistakes? Do you understand? When you have a blueprint like the blueprint I just described to you, anxious, avoidant, right? Avoidance attachment style, disorganized. The only one that was really positive was a secure one. So those, if you had all those, had one or all of those kind of attachment styles, or maybe one parent was one attachment style and another parent was another, you might even come up with a mixture. You might even come up with a mixture. So when stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline become linked to attachment, the body, well, it can become chemically attached to emotional inconsistency. So people say it's in your brain. It really is. It is your brain. That's called neurobiology. Okay? So that's why some people feel withdrawal symptoms when leaving toxic relationships. They literally feel like they were drawn from a drug or alcohol or something like that. But the body was conditioned around survival. So this is the conditioning of the body. So let's further get into this, you guys. Okay, the body was conditioned. All right. So all right. Sometimes people aren't addicted to the person. They're addicted to the emotional pattern. So they think it's really the person. No, this is the pattern you're addicted to. Their nervous system learned in childhood. So they're addicted to the pattern. So they know you can clear yourself of that person now. And you say, oh, this is the pattern I'm addicted to. It doesn't have anything to do with the person. I'm addicted to this person. No, you're addicted to the pattern. Okay? So let's continue. All right? How children patterns show up. How childhood patterns, excuse me, show up in adult relationships. How do they show up? Because you need to know. You need to know what they look like in real time. And that's what we're here for, to show you what it looks like in real time. I must earn love. That's one pattern. And our identity attached to it too. So that's the identity pattern. Okay? All right. Overgiving, perfectionism, overperforming. Yes. Okay. My needs don't matter. Another identity. My needs don't matter. Weak boundaries. This person has weak boundaries. My needs don't matter. Self abandonment, tolerating mistreatment. My needs don't matter. I've adjusted to this. It's a bad thing to adjust to, right? All right. Say, if you're in the comments and you hear me what I'm saying today, say live in the comments, okay? All right. I'm glad we made it today. I'm glad we were able to persevere and make it to our live today. Because you know what? We got to get this done. This is no more pain, you guys. We need to get out of this, okay? So people always leave. That's another identity. People always leave. Another pattern. Clinginess in your relationship, testing others. How I test them. I'm going to test them. Because you already believe that people always leave. You're testing what you already believe. Okay. All right. Fear based reactions constantly on that fear. It's going to happen. They're going to do it because you already believe people always leave. People always leave. My needs don't matter. Let's go over that again. I must earn love. You working harder than ever before. Vulnerability is dangerous. Emotional shutdown, isolation, avoiding deep connection. Yes. You see what I'm saying? So vulnerability is dangerous. That's generally the avoidant attachment style. You kind of figured, did you see that there? Okay, remember we talked about the vulnerability, problems, avoid it. Think about that. Start to make the connection so you can be able to identify these people before, you get so entangled with them. Before you make the decision to fully, bring them into your life. So you need to be able to discern. Or if you have these patterns yourself and you want to change, you want to heal the root causes of these patterns. We can do that as well. No shame, no blame, just healing. That's all we do. It's not about that. It's not about, oh, you're a bad person or anything like that. This is all learned behavior. Okay? So let's continue. Most relationship conflict is not happening in the present moment. So, anytime you're in those crazy fights, I want you to stop for 1 minute and I want you to say to yourself, this isn't happening in the present moment. This already happened. If you remind yourself of that, you're going to probably bring your adrenaline down a peg or two just by saying that to yourself. This didn't happen now. This happened before. You're going to remind your nervous system this is a past pattern. Okay? All right. So it's often younger wounded parts reacting to the older emotional experiences. Okay? So that's what it is. It's the younger wounded parts reacting to those emotional experiences. Okay? So, healing attachment trauma. Let's get into it because now that we talked about the problem, let's talk about the solution. Hello? Who's got time to be hearing all this bad news? It's like, Miss Crystal, where's the good news? Okay, let me give you the good news. Okay, so the good news is healing begins with awareness. And that's why I wanted to go through this whole attachment style stuff, give you guys this whole lesson because I wanted to make sure you understand what this is all about and have the history behind it. Okay, so you cannot heal patterns you do not recognize. Okay, If you don't recognize the patterns, guess what? You're wondering why you keep getting broken up, but you when you leave the last relationship, you never recognize the patterns from the relationship before that. So guess what? You're gonna do it again because you didn't recognize it. And that's why awareness is key. As they always say, knowing is half the battle. Just half, not the whole battle. Okay, keep that in mind. Knowing is half the battle. Okay, so you cannot heal what you don't recognize. All right, your goal is not to shame you. That's not the goal. Oh, look at you. Look how you act. Oh, you're emotionally unavailable. Blah blah blah. That's not what we're doing here. Okay, the goal is to understand. It's to understand. Okay, so one of the ways that we help you to heal this is through self empathy here at Wings of the Future. Okay, so begins when you stop attacking yourself for survival patterns, because that's all these are survival patterns, excuse me. So you don't want to attack yourself for that. You definitely don't want to shame yourself, and I think I've talked about that in one of the other videos. If you guys go back, you'll see what I'm talking about. All right, so shaming yourself is just gonna shut down the nervous system, and you're gonna go into survival mode again. So don't try to shame yourself as a way to get yourself out of this, because shame does not work. Okay, it is not a healing tool that you can use. A lot of people try to use shame when they're trying to stop drinking or alcohol, or they're having some sort of behavior that's not socially acceptable behavior, and they want to stop doing it, and then they try to use shame, and they wonder why they end up using the drugs again, because just to get out of that horrible feeling of shame, you got to drink. Man, drink and do some drugs just to get out of it. It doesn't work that way, you guys. Okay, so I just want to really, really push that point that no, do not try to use shame as a tool to get yourself out of this, because you're just going to block yourself in. Okay, all right. So healing begins when you stop attacking yourself for the survival patterns. Okay, all right. The nervous system adapted to protect you. That's what the nervous system did. It adapted to protect you. Okay, so you cannot create healthy attachment while living in chronic survival mode. No, you cannot. So you're like, okay, I want to go out and get me a better relationship. Because as soon as I teach you this, the first thing you're going to do is try and take this information and go and get yourself a new relationship. Okay, that doesn't work that way either. So stop yourself before you go and mess yourself up. Stop it. Don't do that. Okay? The first thing you got to do if you want to create healthy attachment relationships, because you want to get to the secure attachment, I know you want to get there, and I'm here to help you get there. The way that you do that, okay? The way that you do that, okay, is to rest. I know it's really rest. Health healing requires rest. So that's the first thing you're gonna do to start. So instead of you running to the club to pick up a new guy or girl, I know the attachment styles now. I'm gonna quiz him and find out what his attachment style is, and then I'm gonna wrestle me one home. No, don't do it. Okay? Emotional safety. All right? That's the first thing you do. You have to rest, because you have to bring your nervous system out of survival mode. Otherwise, you're going to go in that club. You're going to go in there. Hopefully, you're not going to no club. But if you happen to go in the club, don't go in the club with an activated nervous system from the last situation. You're going to pick the same thing. Okay, I'm trying to help you guys. I don't want you to ruin your life. Okay, all right. So rest takes the nervous system, it calms it down, and it brings you out of survival mode. Okay, emotional safety. It brings you into emotional safety, because remember, you're trying to go connect because you want a real relationship. You don't just want any kind of situation. You want the real thing, right? So your nervous system has to be ready for that. So you have to bring your nervous system back into safety. Okay. Then you start to practice working on boundaries. Set boundaries with the people that you're in relationship with. Maybe you have a boss that you need to set boundaries with. You got to start with the boundaries. Okay, so if you want to heal, if there's people in your life that you need to kind of get in order, you need to go and do that. You need to set some boundaries. And sometimes the boundaries means no contact rules, depending on who the person is. So some of these people, you can't do it. You try too hard, you just over trying, really. Okay, you gotta slow down. Remember, I said number one, rest. So you're resting, you're bringing your body into emotional safety, you're setting boundaries, you're slowing down. Don't go faster. It doesn't work that way, okay? It doesn't work that way. I'm sorry, you guys, but it don't work that way, okay? And learning to regulate your nervous system. And that's what we do with the deep inner soul healing with self-empathy. We help you to heal and regulate your nervous system, both actually. And we help you to come out of those old survival identities and those old patterns. But you gotta work on that nervous system first before you go running back into those places where you're picking out the next person that you're gonna have to break up with. Okay? Or picking the wrong job or picking the wrong people for your life. Okay? Slow down to fasten up. Think about it like that. Okay? So healthy relationships may initially feel unfamiliar. When you get into healthy relationships, they're not going to feel probably as exciting as the relationships you were in before because the relationships you were in before were all toxic anyway. So they felt like they were like the bomb, but they were not. They were not the bomb. They were toxic. They started off seeming like they were good, but they were just love bombing you anyway. So it wasn't what you thought it was. You were just getting love bombed, and eventually they're going to come out with the true identity that they have, which is the real motive of operandum. Or if they're just a person who's just unaware of their own trauma, they're going to come out with their trauma behavior. Not that they're trying to do it to you, but this is just their pattern, and this is just what they do. So either they're going to intentionally or unintentionally harm you. Either way, okay? So healthy relationships may initially feel unfamiliar or even boring or trauma survivors because chaos train the nervous system to expect activation. All right? Chaos did that. So you see what chaos can do? So you got to relearn safe connections. What does a safe connection feel like? Okay, what does a safe connection feel like? Boundaries are not punishment, you guys. They are nervous system protection. Boundaries are not punishment. They are nervous system connection. All right, so inner child healing. Many adult relationships, actions, reactions are younger, unmet emotional needs resurfacing. So many adult relationship reactions are younger, unmet emotional needs resurfacing. So that's what they are. So many adult relationships are reactions are just a younger, unmet emotional needs resurfacing. That's when we go into the inner child healing work. And we do that here. You gotta do the inner child healing work. It's the bomb. It's really, you think that guy's the bomb? This is the bomb. When you finally heal this and you finally get a stable life that you can really depend on, things are gonna be normal and consistently normal. You can't beat that with a stick. It is amazing. Okay, so I want you to place your hand over your heart, and we're gonna do a little exercise because you know I love to do stuff with you guys. Okay, all right. So I want you to place your hand over your heart and simply breathe. Okay, I'm here for you. I'm ready to listen. You can say your name, Crystal. I'll say my name. I don't have to earn love anymore, and you can place that with anything. Any of the things I told you. You can go back, write down what I said. You don't have to earn love anymore. You are worthy of safe connection, Crystal. You are allowed to have needs. Now, notice your nervous system as you begin to soothe your nervous system with these kind words, okay? You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to rest, Crystal. Take all the time you need to heal every part of your heart, mind, and soul, neurological system, and every place where stress was trapped in your body. You deserve relationships where you do not have to abandon yourself to belong, where you don't have to be abandoned, emotionally abandoned all the time. Okay? All right. So this is amazing. I hope you really enjoyed that. I know I did. I always do. Okay. So what relationship patterns keep repeating in your life? Write that down. And this is how we're going to untangle this whole thing. Okay. We got to untangle this. What did your nervous system learn about love growing up? What did your nervous system learn about love growing up? Do you associate peace with safety or boredom? Some people, this a peaceful life. I'm bored. They associate. They don't associate peace with the things are well. They associate that with boredom. Where do you feel self-abandoned to maintain connection? Where do you feel you self-abandoned to maintain connection? So sometimes you self-abandon in places. Figure that out here. This is all the intel you need to get. This is all the knowledge you need to get. What would a healthy attachment actually look like for you? What would healthy attachment actually look like for you? Okay, so your attachment wounds are not proof that you are broken. Your attachment wounds are not proof that you are broken. They are evidence that your nervous system adapted to survive environments that may not have felt emotionally safe. Okay? All right. But healing is possible. You can learn safe love, healthy boundaries. Remember what we said: emotional regulation, vulnerability, and secure a connection. Secure connection. Okay? You are not doomed to repeat survival patterns forever. Okay? You're not doomed to repeat survival patterns forever. Awareness creates choice, and healing creates freedom. So, all right, you guys, I have a little something I want to tell you. I want to tell you, if tonight's conversation resonated with you and you're ready to begin healing the deeper nervous system, patterns connected to burnout, trauma, relationship, attachment problems, like we're talking about today, emotional overwhelm, I got you, and unhealthy relationship cycles, I invite you to connect with me. I invite you to connect with me. Okay. Book a coaching consultation. Book one. Okay. All right. Join the Burnout to Balance program. Okay. Join it. Don't play around. Join the Burnout to Balance program or follow for more trauma informed healing education. Okay. Grounded in neuroscience, self empathy, and faith. Most importantly, remember, it's not what happens to you, but it's who you decide to become. Remember that, okay? And I thank you guys for joining me today on our live. I'm Crystal Booth, and I'll see you next Monday night, okay? So we can do another live together. All right. See you on the other side. Okay. Bye-bye.